Some of you may have seen him already. I got to meet him yesterday for the first time after talking to him on the phone. Great fella, phenomenal entertainer. He has written an incredible book, which is also for sale out in the lobby. Without further ado, I would like to call to the stage our new friend, Mr. Deke Dickerson.
Sorry, I think I was back there talking to Eddie Pennington and Caleb back there when they announced me, so sorry about the delay. So happy to be here tonight. I was here 5 years ago when I was doing research for the Merle Travis book, and I want to give some special thanks to some of the people that really helped me out. Merlene and Cindy Travis, of course. Put a big hand for them. Dawn Etherly, Patty's daughter. And of course, here in Muhlenberg County, Bill Harlan, Eddie Pennington, Joe Hudson, Marilyn and Pat Kirtley, and many, many more of you that I met when I was out here. Everybody was so nice and so accommodating and so generous, and they didn't mind a guy who just kept digging and digging and digging and asking the most obscure and mundane questions. But I think the book turned out all right. Merlene and Cindy are smiling, so I think they're happy with it. And then I also wanted to mention that it breaks my heart that these people passed away before the book came out. Claude Travis, had a wonderful visit with him. Bobby Anderson, had a really nice visit with him down in Nashville. I was really, really heartbroken about Evan Twitty, because Tom Bresch kept telling me he's just can't wait for that book to come out. He didn't get to see it. Dave Stewart, down in Mississippi, my very good buddy. He would email me all the time, and he was just dying to see the book, and he never got to see it. So I hate that. And of course, Tom Bresch. I think you all knew Bresch, and I got to spend 3 days in Bresch World back in 2018. I recorded about 22 hours of interview. As you can imagine, his life story plus. And I was really, really waiting. I was really hoping that he would be happy with the book. And I think it broke all of our hearts when Bresch passed away last year. Anyway, I was asked to read a passage from the book. This is a passage that I read at the Country Music Hall of Fame last Saturday. We did a celebration of Merle Travis with Tommy Emmanuel and Eddie Pennington and Merlene and Cindy, and that was a blast. I'll try to make this short because I know y'all have heard a lot of talking already. Merle's musical appreciation persists from the hollers of rural Kentucky where his life began to the four corners of the globe. But what to make of this man's life on this planet? To simply lump Merle Travis in with other deceased country music stars of the 20th century would be to overlook the massive influence of his specific legacy. For instance, enter any guitar store anywhere on the planet, and you'll see hundreds, if not thousands, of solid-body electric guitars. Every single one of those instruments can trace its lineage to the solid-body electric guitar that Merle designed with Paul Bigsby in 1948. In those same stores, you will see dozens of guitar vibratos, from the Fender Stratocaster to modern designs like the Floyd Rose and the Kahler, to the old but still ubiquitous Bigsby vibrato. These vibratos all trace their lineage to Merle's request that Paul Bigsby invent a guitar vibrato that would stay in tune. Since Merle put the first Bigsby vibrato on his Gibson Super 400 in 1952, the guitar vibrato has been popularized across the globe. Rock music would be very different without Merle Travis's guitar style, a style that was adapted by Scotty Moore when he played with Elvis Presley, and by Carl Perkins, Duane Eddy, Eddie Cochran, and even George Harrison of the Beatles. Although Merle never considered himself a rock and roll guitarist, his Travis-picking style was a major cornerstone of the genre. The echoes can still be heard today, even in the music of modern acts who don't realize that their influences were Merle Travis. A good example would be Lindsey Buckingham of Fleetwood Mac, who plays in a fingerstyle that would not be possible were it not for Merle's groundwork. Folk music would be very different today if that 1960s generation of folkies hadn't grown up on a steady diet of Merle's Folk Songs of the Hills album, the success of 16 Tons in the mid-1950s, and Merle's many appearances on Town Hall Party and other television shows. His compositions influenced innumerable folk acts, from early clean-cut college groups like the Kingston Trio through the long-haired folk rockers of the late 1960s and early 1970s. In an interview conducted for this book, Chris Hillman of the Byrds, the Flying Burrito Brothers, and the Desert Rose Band revealed that he watched Merle and Joe Maphis on Town Hall Party every week when he was young. Country western music would be a completely different genre today without Merle Travis, since the incredibly influential Nashville guitarist and record producer Chet Atkins took his style from Merle and considered him his greatest influence. What would country music have been without Chet Atkins? And would young Chester Burton Atkins have become the great Chet Atkins without a burning desire to emulate his hero, Merle Travis? Capitol Records still does business at the Capitol Tower in Hollywood today. Likely most of the rappers and pop stars who pass through its hallways and the people who buy their records have no idea that Capitol wouldn't be in business today if Merle hadn't saved them from insolvency in 1947 when he wrote the blockbuster hit, Smoke, Smoke, Smoke That Cigarette, or that earnings from Tennessee Ernie Ford's 1955 hit version of 16 Tons paid for much of the construction of the now iconic Capitol Tower, which opened in 1956. When I agreed to write Merle's life story, I decided to immerse myself in this complex subject. I knew that to fully understand his journey, I had to see it with my own eyes and understand it from firsthand knowledge. I hit the road on several trips spanning 3 years. During a week in Muhlenberg County, Kentucky, with my host, Bill Harlan, I visited the lonesome farm in tiny, unincorporated Rosewood, where Merle was born. The air was thick and still, and it didn't seem like much had changed since 1917, except for the cars. Farm families still live in Rosewood in 100-year-old houses and sit on their porches to watch the world go by. On Saturday night, pickers gather in nearby Drakesboro to play thumb-style guitar. It's more of a social gathering than a performance, much the way the music in the area has always been. My host took me to see his own performance with a local country western band. The elderly audience danced, some with the aid of walkers and canes, and supper was served. At the end of the evening, the entire audience gathered in a circle, holding hands with the band and myself, and prayed. Harlan took me to his church in Greenville, where I was introduced to the entire congregation. Afterwards, we went out to a fancy after-church supper. One evening, Harlan and I visited his long-term music partner, Royce Morgan, who we went and visited the other night. He can't be here tonight. And his wife, Theda, along with cousin Claude Travis, and reminisced about 65 years of music in Muhlenberg County. Later, at his home, Claude Travis showed me his collection of Kentucky Coal Company flickers and script. I visited Eddie Pennington in nearby Princeton, where he expertly showcased the proper way of Travis picking as a fleet of Gibson Super 400 guitars and newer replicas rested on their own separate couch nearby. Harlan, who had grown up with the Everly Brothers as a childhood friend, pointed out the place where Cleeton Crossing had once been, the site where Cannonball Rag got its name. As Harlan and I drove around Muhlenberg County, a dozen times we passed Ebenezer Baptist Church and Merle's Stone Marker and Ashes. One night late, I had a particularly memorable glimpse of the marble monument in shadow, standing silent sentry over the rural county's famous guitar player and songwriter. Now, I'm just going to add one more thing. I know I'm going to get a little long-winded here, but this is just a couple of paragraphs. This is the very end of the book. I flew across the ocean to play at a music festival in Spain in early 2020. At least 2 musicians there had custom-made guitars built to resemble the Bigsby guitars Merle designed in the 1940s. There were Italian and Spanish and French and Dutch and British and Finnish guitar players, all playing various derivatives of the Travis picking style. A guitarist from Chicago named Joel Patterson played an afternoon concert on the beach overlooking the Mediterranean with his band, The Modern Sounds. As Patterson deftly played Merle's showcase guitar piece, Cannonball Rag, a crowd of guitar acolytes gathered,